Thanks for joining today's program entitled Hold, Fold, Walk, Run for Dealing with Difficult Conversations. I'm Jessica Philippe. I'm the Member Engagement Librarian at SCRLC. We're using Zoom webinar today, so your mics and cameras are off for the duration of the webinar, but you're welcome to post questions to the chat. And now it's my pleasure to welcome educator, keynote speaker, and host of the podcast Information Gone Wild, Maurice Coleman. Thanks for joining us, Maurice.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me, and thank you to the South Central Regional Library Council for inviting me to do this presentation. Before we start, I just want to say hi. Good old money, New Rochelle, close to my home of New York City. I'm going to say wave and turn off my video. I have something called Comcast down here in Maryland. And for those of you who maybe have Time Warner and whatnot, it's pretty much the same kind of poopy in terms of bandwidth. So I want to make sure that you see all of the stuff here, the important stuff, and then my voice is just me. There'll be time to ask questions, etc. So we're talking about hold, fold, walk, run. Really, it's dealing with difficult conversations. So that's me, my little visage, my headshot, as it were. And everything here is with permission or via Creative Commons licensing. I want to know, have you ever been this person? And if you have to think which person we're talking about here with the difficult conversations, I'm very glad that you think that way. But really, have you been that person, who's been, I have to have this thing. This person came up to me randomly and started at me. Well, we're going to talk about today how to deal with those difficult conversations. I want you to come away with just thinking about 4 words, and then we can go off of those words. First, it's hold, fold, walk, run. Before we begin, some of you have already talked about in there. I'd like to know, what is your particular role at your library? Use the chat. Remember to send it to everyone so we all can see just a one-sentence thing about who you are. Yeah, a library trustee, director, manager, department heads. Awesome. Cert clerk, Allison, more power to circulation. I start out in circulation. It is the best. Access services, your circulation adjacent, close enough. A library assistant, directors, system consultants. So we have a wide range of people. We have different flavor of librarians. I like that we have folks from all sorts and manners of libraries here. That's really great. Now, I'd like to, next question is, briefly, why are you here today? I mean, like, we can guess why you're here, but please tell me why you're here today, just to sort of get your interactive juices flowing. Confrontation's hard, struggling with difficult conversations. Okay. Learn better strategies dealing with difficult people. Handle conversation, turn confrontational. Oh, well, we had something that just happened last week. All right. Or Aaron's a demanding one. All right, get tips and tricks listening while confronting a tough conversation. You need to get along, but it's tough sometimes. Yes, it is. Oh, thanks, Victoria. Yep, it is. It's definitely essential for everyone everywhere. Newer methods of communication. I hope they're just new to you, Amy. I didn't come up with any new ones. I could, but I'm not that self-aggrandizing. Figured I'd use stuff that was proven by folks. All righty. Thank you very much for your stuff. Today, we are going merely puddle deep. Please remember, this is only an hour webinar. I can't go into every single possibility, permutations of things, but what I'd like you to leave here with are at least 1, 2, or 3 things that you can do to change your behavior for the better. If you leave with more, that's great. Also, after the class, I'm going to send some handouts to you all to have lots of information on there, including a bookshelf. So if you know a little bit about almost any type of music, you know the song, The Gambler, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, when to walk away, when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough to count when the dealing's done. Even if you're not a country music person, you've heard that song in some context. And you know that studies have shown that at least half of you just sang the song in your head. But we're going to use this as the basis of the mnemonic to help you remember how to get in and out of these conversations and what to do. So again, you got to know when to hold them, right? Holding them is having that conversation if you're up for it. And that's a key thing. A lot of these things rely on you, not the person. Okay? Make sure you want to have the conversation if you're up for it. The next is to fold them. That's deflecting the conversation, but importantly, you're deflecting it with some sort of follow up. You want to make sure that you and the person who you're having the conversation with or need to have the conversation with, it's some follow up. Next, you want to defer it with grace and save their face. And the last to run is to reject a losing situation. So before we do any of this, you have to, in your mind, in your mind's eye, in you, a lot of this centers on you as the individual. What you need to do is plan and prepare like Godzilla burning Tokyo. You have to plan and prep. You have to plan for the unexpected and prepare for the unexpected. Plan for the expected, prepare for the unexpected stuff. That ounce of preparation is going to be better than a pound of absolutely anything else you bring to the table. If you're prepared, you're going to be ready to go in any situation. And it's tough because you don't know what situation is going to come up. You just have to be as prepared as possible. A very important thing is to know thyself, know what you're feeling. In any of these confrontations, conversations, a lot of times your energy spikes. You feel things, a lot of things, whether it's anger, fear, sadness, hurt, grief, joy, safe, all these different feelings. If you're better organized, you can understand yourself. And the better you can, make sure you can stay cool in any situation. You know yourself, you will be able to stay cool in any situation and be able to take emotions somewhat out of it. Our first book is called Zen, the Art of Dealing with Difficult People. Remember, you need to find a way to safely express whatever emotions are arising, but not become attached to it. And don't worry, there's a bookshelf at the very end. You don't have to write down or screen cap all these things. And if you want, I hope you don't, but right after the webinar, see if your library or if you get it through interlibrary loan any of these books. Also, you got to know your fill in the S. I prefer stuff. You can use other words that begin with S, but you need to know before you have any of these possible conversations, you have to know your rules. You should prepare possible scenarios. If you're going to some sort of community meeting and there is some hot button issue in your community, you need to think ahead and go, all right, if someone asks me about this, what are my options? You need to prepare. You may even want to do this SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis of a situation if it's something really ginormous. But know your stuff. And part of knowing your stuff is knowing yourself and being mindful of yourself and knowing why you are uncomfortable with some things. The most important thing you bring to any conversation, difficult or not, is you. So you have to worry about the things you can't control. Too many times people deal with the stuff outside of their control. They worry about the past, the future. What happens around me? What other people think? The outcome of my efforts, how others take care, all that other stuff. Control what master and control what you can control. Your thoughts, actions, boundaries, the goals you set, what you give your energy to, how you speak for yourself, and how you handle challenges. And distinguishing between what someone says or does and your reactions or judgments is very important. I truly love emotional intelligence. I know some of you have heard of it. Maybe many of you are using it. If you don't know it, review it. It's wonderful. It's a great way of learning how to channel your emotions and yourself to better handle any situation. And these are some of the building blocks of emotional intelligence. If you're not aware of it, it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. All these things are vital to really being a great person and a great leader. And remember, it doesn't matter if you're a CERT clerk or the director of a multi whatever library system, you are still a leader. And in the conversation, if it's a difficult conversation, you need to be the leader of that conversation. Part of leadership, a very important part of leadership, is empathy. Empathy is power. Now, a lot of people think empathy is just feeling sorry for someone. Nope, that's not it. Empathy is actually being able to sense other people are feeling, other people's emotions, imagine how someone's feeling, identify those things, etc. And you best do that when you know your stuff. When your stuff is organized, you can better sense other people and how they're doing, how they're feeling. If you're in a situation and you are somewhere, part of staying cool is unleashing your inner meerkat. What I mean by that is reading the room. Who's near you? Who's around you? Who's coming at you? Who could see you? Who could be near you? What things could happen, etc. Am I suggesting your head's continuing on a swivel? Not all the time. But sometimes you need to do the subtle, not quite moving the head, but eyeball, see who's around, etc. And when someone approaches you, make sure you look at their body language. Okay? Make sure you look at their body language. Are they coming up to you hostile, agile? Are they nervous? Are they confident? Are they irritated? All those different things that you know about body language apply to those people when you're looking right at them, right? When you're looking someone in the eye. Try to keep the reaction to whatever they're doing off of your face. Process it inside, but also know that you don't make assumptions. This is no place for assumptions. Yeah, you study the room like a meerkat, but don't assume anything about anyone. Using your inner meerkat prepares you for possibilities. And throughout this, always remember that you need to recharge yourself regularly. If you are not in the best mental and physical and spiritual space, your conversations, good or bad or indifferent, are going to fail. They're not going to reach your outcome. They're not going to catch you at your best. You always want to be at your best. And last, let's default to empathy and civility as much as you can when appropriate. All right, are there any questions out there about anything? Remember to send them to anyone. I just want to do a check-in, making sure this helpful to folks. Will this help you, have some to really have those crucial conversations? By the way, excellent book, Crucial Conversations. That's going to be in the reading. That's going to be in the library list.
Not seeing any questions come through the chat yet.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. I did see. Thank you, Wendy, for saying that. All right. Next, let's talk about communication. As I mentioned earlier, you should always make sure that you take charge of the conversation. You want to repeat their name, make eye contact, some sort of firm double-handed handshake or something. You want to take control of the conversation. The reason you want to make sure you are in control of the conversation is that you can shift from either running, walking, holding, or folding at any time. And also do it be humble, but don't humble brag when doing it. Part of the ability to communicate is make sure you gain control of the little things in a conversation. That's a hallmark of people who survive. Excellent book, The No Asshole Rule, Building a Civilized Workplace and Surviving One That Isn't. You can get some really excellent things out of that. They're practical ways to deal with that person, those people at your job. And you have to make sure, you remember, you're rested, you have all these things going on, you're staying cool. You have to make sure that you don't get dragged down to the quicksand. You want to make sure you focus on things you can control and the things that matter. If you see someone who's becoming unreasonable, gracefully or not, exit stage left. In the conversation, you want to encourage them to tell their story when you can. That way, you're talking way less, but you're still in control of the conversation. You're going to use active listening, which I'll talk about in a minute. Active listening techniques to make sure that you are truly in the conversation. You hear them, you can process, you can respond. Remember, don't have one-sided conversations which kill collaboration. And this book, You're Not Listening, it's a lot. Some of it is, deals with improv comedy. But really, don't have one-sided conversations. If you do talk in a conversation, you want to think before you speak. And I truly live by this mantra. I want to make sure, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? If you stick to that for the most part, even in, shall we say, difficult situations, you are going to get a better result. If not directly from that person, from someone who's around you who says, you know what? Jessica's being really reasonable here. I don't mind that. I'm going to talk to Jessica about this stuff. Or Michelle didn't fly off the handle. Wow, that was wow. She really just spoke to that person out of kindness and empathy. And that gives you power. Everyone's heard of active listening at some point in their life. They've heard these two words thrown together about repeating what the other person says in your words to make sure that they understand that you have heard them, truly heard them. An important part of active listening is don't fill the silence. Trust what you say in your questions and wait. This is really hard to do, especially if you are used to talking and talking and talking with multiple people, you jump in, etc. It's hard sometimes to give people space to formulate an answer. So give people a little bit of space and grace to formulate an answer. You will find that people, for the most part, will give you even more of an answer than you expected. You also have to make sure that your messaging, whatever comes out of your mouth, is implicitly clear. Because every single person sees whatever message you're producing through their filters, their life experience, their workplace experience, everything that they've done their entire time on this planet. They're filtering your message through. You need to make sure that your message is so clear that they won't misinterpret it. And that's also electronically. Because if you're having a difficult conversation, maybe via email or via text message, you have to make sure autocorrect is your friend and not get to send to hello. Also remember, I, not you. Part of the communication, especially a difficult conversation, I statements, not you statements. Avoid the accusatory. You didn't. I, no, I, not you. And this shouldn't be you. You need to control the situation by keeping your emotions out of the equation and using clearly communicated guidelines and expectations during your conversation. If someone's not being kind to you, you can say, I appreciate how you feel. Really, you shouldn't talk to me that way. And that's okay to say. And if you have to, find yourself to exit stage left and express those emotions away from the sitch, So you come off as dispassionate to a point. You want to make sure you're always using that cool professional demeanor when you can. Because you want to be the professional that can deal with any problem or crisis with grace, skill, balance, empathy, and understanding. And remember your body language. Your body language is important too because they are reading that also, especially in a stressful situation. And to communicate as succinctly, state your case as succinctly as possible. And last but not least, focus on the issue. Make sure you keep focus on the issue itself, not anything around you. You want to keep focus on the issue. Anything the issue, you want to burn that away. All right, questions with the pre-work. This is all the pre-work. 20 minutes of pre-work before we get into this.
There was a question a little bit earlier from Michelle who asked, how does this work with people who don't have a sense of empathy?
Well, you remember what I said about controlling what you can control? Can you control if that person has a sense of empathy? No. What you can do is be empathetic to it, and maybe you have to use the great hammer of rules, depending on the situation, who they are. And I like Julia said about those who struggle with empathy, maybe helping them identify body language combined with assessment of behaviors, etc. They're not necessarily irritated, that they're acting outside the behavior, outside the body language. It's hard. It's not easy. And you can do what you can. And remember, Michelle and everyone else, oh, I think if you're the one with no sense of empathy, okay. Well, if that's the case, time to do some work. Make minor improvements. If you improve a little bit every day, if you really are mindful of being empathetic and think, how does this affect this person? Or what am I doing to affect that person? Just begin to put that at front of mind and do your best. Always improve. Around you will see even minor improvements and should praise minor improvements. They'll see that. If you're not the one with any sense of empathy, you can somewhat you can do some work to learn to fake it somewhat. That's it's not even faking. It's you try your best. Do your best with it as much as you can. It's not an easy answer. It's not I can't give you a piece of software to download into your brain to say, yes, Michelle Ryan has plus 10 empathy points. I can't do that. But if you're at the front of your mind and think about how other people are feeling, what's the effect on that person before you say these things, and maybe play it off, take a moment beforehand, before you're in a conversation, Michelle. If you're the one leading the conversation, think what are some possible scenarios that this person could feel with the information I'm about to give or the information I plan to give. And saying, yes, acknowledge their feelings, etc. You don't have to buy into them. I'll talk about that a little later. You can acknowledge them, but you don't buy into them necessarily. I'm sorry you feel that way. Not I'm sorry that you're sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. All right, thank you for that answer, Julia. Yeah, it's you know, nobody's perfect. Okay, nobody's perfect. We all have areas we can improve on. Michelle, Julia, Julia, thank you very much for your two answers in there. I love the wisdom of the crowd, and we're going to do more of that later. No one has all the answers. All we can do is work to improve ourselves, to identify the areas we need to improve and do the work to improve ourselves. It's all anyone can do. That's all that anyone really wants to do is I want to, if you're better, that the adage, if you are 1% better every day, imagine what you'll be in 365 days. If you're better every year, imagine where you'll be better in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years.
Someone in the chat also mentioned this just went out to host and panelists, but that reading fiction helps develop empathy. Which,
Yeah, you know what? It does.
yeah, I agree.
It puts you in other people. It's allowing you to, a lot of empathy is seeing stuff from, there you go, Janet. I like that. I'm totally, I understand why you feel that way. Yes, that's what I mean. Thank you, Janet. And I can't, you can't understand why you feel that way. It also gets that word sorry out of there, which has so weird connotations. But fiction's a really great way to put yourself in the shoes of another person. And heck, some nonfiction is a great way to put yourself in the shoes of another person. All right, let's talk about first holding that conversation, is having that conversation. Okay, you want to have that conversation. You're ready. You're in the right frame of mind. You're tanned, you're rested, you're ready. Oh, I like that, Victoria. In conversation with people you know and trust, ask questions that allow them to tell about how they came to a feeling or belief and listen without interrupting. Yep. I can talk to you offline about that, Janet. I'm yeah, I hear and I acknowledge that you are. I can talk to you offline about that. I can understand why. I get it, but again, to each their own, etc. I understand you saying that, and I don't think you're accepting position of blame. I think that's part of being empathetic. But again, that's an offline thing. If you want to if you have the time or energy to have the conversation, right? You want to hold, you want to have that conversation. So, is it the right time? Is it the right audience? Are you prepared to have that conversation? Deferring isn't an option. You got to put this fire out right now. And is it the right place to have the conversation? If you're going to have this conversation, all conversation, you want to make sure that you listen intently to their story. Some things you could say are, I have a minute to talk. Tell me what's going on. What is going on? Or why do you feel that? And again, you want to make sure that you talk way less. You let the person tell their story. Use those active listening techniques and stay cool, in control of your emotions, and hear what they have to say. You may not like it, but you can hear what they have to say. Now, I'm going to ask for the wisdom of the crowd here. What are some other things that you can say to start that type of conversation that you want to have with someone who may be kind of and full of boundless energy and anger? What are some things you can say to give them an entree to start the conversation? Just type it in chat. Remember to send it to everyone. It's like we all see the wisdom of the crowd. I like that, Victoria. What do you need right now? Can you tell me more about X, Y, and Z? Yep, gathering information. You're having that conversation. Oh, interesting. It's scenario specific. Oh, there you go. This is going to be a hard conversation, but it's necessary, but we'll both survive it. I like that. That's all right, Claire. It's all right to struggle. We do the work. Help me understand. Can I help you? If you notice, Claire, I just want to point out a lot of these are scenario, some of these things that folks have said are scenario generic. And acknowledging the person's passion and emotion to get to the problem. I don't know about you, but a lot of times if people are having a conversation, is that they're feeling very emotionally involved and they feel hurt or angry about something, but you need to figure out what the something is. What can we do to fix this? Okay. Oh, there you go. Focus on drawing out the answer towards that direction. Can we talk without saying about what is kind of a kiss of death? Understood. Amanda, these are not the try to use what tools work for you. I can't be specific, but I get it. It's kind of a kiss of death for people with anxiety. Maybe if you have to have that conversation, if you trust someone to have that conversation with you or to be your wing person while you have that conversation and to be that emotional support or practice with someone. beforehand. If you know you're going to have a conversation with someone about something, if it's a planned thing, practice it beforehand. That's part of that scenarioizing. Okay, if I'm talking over for another coworker, introduce myself. There you go, Julia. I do that as a former circ manager. I had to do that a lot. There you go. Yep. Yeah, I will say, excellent point, Julia. I would say the danger of how I can help, sometimes you're told on things you better do right away. And you can say, I always say, this is what I can do for you right now. Within the rules and guidelines of a library, this is what I can do for you right now. I can't work miracles, and I'm not going to create a walk on water situation for you that's not part of the rules, because you'll expect it. Everyone else can do that. There you go. I can't do X, but I can help you with Y is a good one too. But you want to acknowledge the person's importance, let them tell their story, because sometimes it's really an easy thing to fix. They don't know it. And sometimes it's not. All right. If you have any more ideas still in the chat, I'm going to move on. Sometimes you need time to refer things to HR before you could offer solutions. That is true. Right. And Julia, you could also say part of a library is not you're not supposed to sleep in the library, and say, look, part of the rules of the library, you're not supposed to sleep in the library. I appreciate you finding this is a space where you feel comfortable enough to do that, but that is against library rules, simply because you need to make sure our patrons are awake and aware to anything that might happen in the library. That's not crazy. You're not saying they're a bad person. You're saying it's against the rules of it's against the rules of the library. And also, this goes on to sort of library security. If you're ever telling anyone who is doing this thing sleep in the library, Warren Graham from many years ago did the Black Belt Librarian. He always said, and I quote, make sure you have something between you and that person. You don't know how you're going to startle them, etc. You want a physical barrier between you and that person, either some space or a big honking thing between you if you say that, or a partner with you. Yep, you could do that. Yep, we can't lie sleep in the library. It's not part of library rules. Whatever works for you. All right, next we're going to talk about folding them. That's deflecting the conversation. Okay. The reasons you may deflect the conversation, these are just a few, is something superseded the conversation, something fell down, etc. You want to change the subject. Uh, Sam, I'm going to put a pin in that one. Let me talk to you about that. If you feel like you're never prepared to have the conversation, that's maybe you could work on some generic scenarios of things. And again, use all the training you're doing with trainings, etc. You do a lot of just-in-time training. That's cool. But you can't always have the answer to the questions. And don't that Claire and Sam, that's part of why you do the prep beforehand, the scenarioizing, etc. It's creating those mental repetitions so that you're not caught like a deer in the headlights in a moment of panic. I will tell you, ask anyone you may know who, wow, you're really good at that, doing stuff in the moment. It's like, yeah, because I screwed up about 5,000 times. I have lots of practice messing up, so I now know what to do. A lot of it is building up mental reps and physical reps with it. Ask anyone who's in a leadership position. It's akin to those who, oh, wow, you're really good with computers. Yeah, because I messed everything up. I had to become an expert. So I had to fix everything. So that's how I became a computer expert, because I had to fix it all. Is there someone better than you to have that conversation? Or you can postpone it without consequences. Here are some suggestions for things. If you don't have language, here are some suggestions for things you can say. And Claire and Sam, I hope I helped you with that. A lot of it is doing the mental preparation beforehand. You may be able to say, throw some stuff up, take a day of, all right, what if X, Y, and Z happens? And maybe you bring someone in who's really good at thinking on their feet and say, and they can help you. This is what I would do. It may not work for you, but this is what I would do. Here are some things you can say you can say. Let's schedule time to talk about this without distractions. I need to take care of thing X. When can we meet to continue our conversation? Or Jane is the right person to talk about this. Let's find her. That way, you're still doing the importance of the conversation, etc., but you're deflecting it. You are folding them. deflecting it to another time, place, location, etc. You're still acknowledging the importance of it. You are. Notice all these things are somewhat specific. Let's find a time to talk. We're going to schedule something. Let's take care. When can we meet? Let's go talk to the right person about this. And what are some things, if you could answer in chat to everyone, that you can say to deflect the conversation? And while you think of some things, Jill, I like that. It's good to have a buddy so you could help each other's coworkers in a public facing position. Yep, there you go. I like that. Excuse me. This is have that language. That way someone doesn't have to think about it. They can just refer to that language. But make sure it sounds genuine, not, excuse me, this is the first time I heard about this. Would you mind telling me the issue from the start and what led up to this? You want people to be able to deliver that with some empathy. Also, Michelle, we have copies of the code pages at the desk. Staff are not comfortable, can just highlight the behavior and say, I just want to make sure you're aware of this rule. There you go. And it doesn't make them the bad person. They're just providing the information. They're not saying you're the bad person. No, I'm just providing information for you. That's not an appropriate time to discuss that. You've given me something to think about. Can I get back to you later today? This is not a productive line for us to go down, which could be a good deflection, but Dixon also, that's also, Sophia, I want you to hold that one for the last one when you want to run. You want to hold that one for run, but I like that. But I like that. I like your thinking. Oh, if you're the person, Aaron, that they deflect to, you can use the I need more information in order to correctly answer your question. Tell me what's going on so I can gather the information so I can give you a right answer. And the more you do that, maybe the more you'll have those right answers in your head. But sometimes, you're deflecting it to get more information. You're deflecting it to do some research or maybe find a resource for someone. Those of you who do reference, sometimes you don't find the right resource in the first 5 minutes. Sometimes you have to do some work to find it. I like that. This is important. Let's make a way to have a good conversation. And this is the first time I hear this. Can I have some time to look into it, get back to you? All right. By the way, give yourself a little, golf clap round of applause out there. I know your mics are off, but give yourself a round of applause for doing some good work here. All right. Are there any questions about holding or folding? Oh, I like that, Julia. This sounds like it's frustrating, confusing. Do you have time to wait while I reach out to someone with that information, or would you like to speak later? I like that. And Jessica, just make sure I get a copy of the webinar chat for the notes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put this stuff in the actual notes. Put some of these different options in the notes.
perfect. That sounds great. And then Camille had a question.
What can a supervisor? Go ahead, Jessica, if you want to read it. That way someone else can hear not my voice.
What can a supervisor do if they overhear a coworker having a difficult conversation with a person without undermining that coworker's value? Do you wait for the coworker to ask you to intervene?
I will throw it to other supervisors out there, and I have my own thoughts, but I will throw it to the wisdom of the crowd. There's 75 participants with multiple people, so there's a lot of experience out there. How would you answer that question to Camille? A quick, brief, one-sentence answer to Camille. Yep. My current job, I work in HR, and people hate to hear those two words. It depends, but it does depend. A lot of HR, it depends. Step it if asked or deflected to. Yep. If the coworker is asking for body language, asking for help, walk over and said, "Hey, I just walking by and just see how are you guys doing? How are you all doing?" There you go. Yep. Or just say, "Hey, I just walking by, say, hey, how are y'all doing?" And keep walking. If the person says, "Oh, you're the person here." Making your presence known. I like that. There you go. Yep. You want to be there. And you could also suggest to, if you're not that person's supervisor, or if you're at the same level, maybe we do some training on these things. Is there, Walmart has like the code word for various things. You don't necessarily want to do that, but is there a way to signal, or, hey, just a way to say hand signal or something to get to know your coworker to see if you know their body language and they do need help. All right, all excellent answers. Again, give yourself a golfy clappy round of applause. Next, let's talk about walking away, and this is not deflecting but deferring the conversation. And you're going to do that with grace. And some of you have mentioned some of these things already. Now, you need the right people in the wrong people's in the room. It's not the right time. You're not prepared. Something's just not right. And you need more information. And preparing information, prepare it as you. Are you physically, mentally, spiritually ready to have this conversation? Or it's not the top of the list. Some things you can say to really to begin to loop that in, defer, helping them save face. Let's loop Tim into this conversation scheduled for next Tuesday. And I just want you to know, you all said some of the very similar things. I like the way your brains are working here. I need more information before we can talk. Can we reconnect Monday? Or let's talk about this tomorrow. Now you're allowing the person to save face. Again, you've recognized it. You've not deflected. You're deferring the conversation later. What are some things that you can say to defer the conversation? And so we've already said some great things already. Again, I'm glad to capture some of this stuff, and I really appreciate your willingness to share and open up to your fellow library folks to really get to know and really provide great information for people. I just want to thank you. Really give sincere, honest, sincere thanks for that. It's so nice to do a webinar that is this interactive. It lets me know that A, it's get your juices are flowing, and B, the information is helping you. Pretend to have a pressing meeting, hoping this is happening 3 minutes before the hour. I like that. That is a way to defer. It's also a way to run away from a conversation, too. But running away is more about that person, not you deferring. It's more about your stuff. Deferring is more about you. You need to get yourself straight up. There you go. Please give me a chance to talk to the parties involved so that I have more complete understanding of the situation that we schedule a meeting and discuss. I want to make sure I give us the time to deserve. Yep. Can we come back to the time to think this through? Yep. Nothing wrong with that. And side tip for those who if you are in a leadership position of your library or your agency place, etc., and you get a member of the press to come in and say, "Can I talk to you about the latest blah 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 happened in the community?" You are more than able to use that. Please give me a chance to get myself together. Can we talk in about a half of an hour or 45 minutes so you don't have to do the interview right away? Oh, I like that. I want to make sure to give us the time it deserves. Can we come back to this after I've had time to think this through? And knowing who they are, just make them feel heard. Absolutely, Wendy. Sometimes you're being deferred when you haven't been present for what happened. Often situations blown out of proportion by the time it gets to me. How can you get a more realistic description of what happens that you don't overreact? Michelle, try to talk to all of the parties involved. And have you heard of the phrase, there's their story? You have four people in a room. There's person one story, person two story, person three story, and then what really happened. You want to get as much information. There you go. More information to respond accurately. Because one person can see someone, well, that person, that customer, however you call them, that customer got in Victoria's face. And another coworker said they were standing about 2 feet away and it didn't look like they were violating her personal space at all. Did I answer your question, Michelle? Try to get it. That's all about information gathering, knowing your staff, knowing who you are, looking at if you got to go to cameras, etc. Oh, there you go. And make sure you document stuff. Yep. Just you're going to use your best judgment. You got to know your folks and your best judgment and know what training you already given them. Is anyone going to be perfect in this situation? Amanda isn't giving you the option. Amanda, you always have the option. Why? I like your transition because you can always run away and reject the conversation. You could always, they're not giving you the option. Yeah, you can, you know what? You could just say, nope, nope, not happening today. This is on the other person, especially if they're being overly aggressive, etc., and you can't get through to them. You are more than able to say, nope, I am not having this conversation right now. If they aren't listening to you, you should be able to say, nope. If there's anger, lots of anger, you should be able to say, nope, not listening to this. If you feel a threat of violence, nope, I'm out of here. Nope, not happening. You can come talk to me later, etc. We can do this other ways, but nope, not happening. If that person's out of control, uh-uh. If you're outnumbered, if it's just you and there's 5 people maybe who are in opposition to you and you're getting bombarded, exit stage right. And you're outnumbered can lead to the mom mentality. If you got to get out of there, get out of there. Yep. This conversation's over. I hope you can find some resolution another time. And it's important for you all to realize that reining in a person's anger requires a very tricky mixture of setting limits to the person's expression of their anger while simultaneously being supportive of their feelings. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. But if you apply civility, grace, etc., it's going to be easier to do and maybe possibly could be easier for them to accept. Now, briefly, for those of you who, it's sometimes the ways to stay composed when you're in these situations is, mindful pausing, take a pause a minute, be respond, being assertive. Remember, you're in control of the conversation. You're going to choose your response. You could also reframe their intent, clarify expectations, and release and refocus. Right. And also, Julia, for everyone out there, if you ever get to a situation where you think you need to call the police, call the damn police. If you are feeling that way, you don't say, I'm going to call the police. You just call it, suddenly going back and call the cops, or have someone else call the cops, or have a hand signal, say, Mr. Johnson, report to the basement office. And, that's, you're calling the cops. There you go. Yep. A boss who said to the customer, you're not able to talk to my team that way. Please leave. Yep. You are allowed to do that. Every library, no matter what they are, has expectations of patron behavior. And someone said earlier about having the copy of the patron rules and regulations. You can't talk to my people like that. Nope. I'm sorry you feel that way, but you need to leave until you are in a better place that we can help you. We can't help you if you are us. Yep, there you go. Yep, absolutely. I worked next door to the police station at my library, and I had the cops come in and say, you need to call us if you have a situation. You all are library staff, while you are all wonderful, capable human beings, this is not your job. It's our job to help these situations. Call us. We do not mind. And Allison, I'm sure that boss is expressing that's the power of stepping away. Right? Holding the power in that conversation allows you to step away when necessary. Yep. They tell you the same thing. Call us. That's what we're here for. You are not to handle that. We are. Julia, I'm sorry that happened to you. But if you feel the hairs in the back of your neck when that's you're being no physical threat, a verbal threat is a threat. If you feel squicky, if you feel unsafe, if you feel any of those things physically threatened, mentally threatened, I would say call the police. All right, some things to say. Here are some things to say. You tell nurses to trust that vibe. Yep. I see that you're very upset. Why don't we talk to you when you're in a better place? I cannot let you talk to me like that. I'm walking away from this conversation and I need some space, then create an exit if possible. And some of you have already done this. What are some other things you can say to reject the conversation? Some of you have already said some of them in chat. And again, give yourself another round of applause. All right. Now, once you have the whole full walk run afterwards, the other part of the song is, oh, I like that, Sam. Unfortunately, I cannot continue this conversation with you. Yep. Part of the counting the money is you're going to reflect and evaluate of a situation. All right. You get back, you're heated, you're done, your adrenaline has gone down, your heart stopped racing, you stop the flop sweat if you get floppy sweaty. The evaluation is going to be the first step in preparing for your next encounter to build up those mental reps. So the first thing you want to think of is, were they right? And if they were right, was it a presentation problem on your part or their part that led to a contentious thing? Were they wrong? Was it a perspective issue or a communication issue that you couldn't quite communicate the perspective, or that you think maybe they couldn't communicate their perspective in an appropriate manner? Because all it takes is three different things, right? Jessica, absolutely. This is the part where you think of all the perfect things you could have said. And what you do is you leave them in your toolkit for next time or something similar. You build up those mental reps. You have to think, because from these three different images, they're all the truth. They're completely different images, but they're all the same thing. It's all about your perspective. Are you looking down? You're looking from an angle? You're looking from the side. They're all the exact same thing. It's just I'm standing here with all of my stuff, my things I come in with that have forged me versus all the things I come in with versus forging you. My wife and I talk about this a lot. When we talk about politics or anything else, we really have realized over 20, over, oh, I'm sorry, over a quarter of a century that we got raised very differently in different places. We see things through our lenses. And just to let you know, people do see things through different lenses. And just acknowledge that. And you need to figure out what you did well. Identify one thing that you did well. And what's something that could have gone better? It's a plus delta. It's that really doing critical self-evaluation. And you're doing all this to prepare for your next encounter. And how is that relationship? Is it a relationship you want to build a bridge to? Do you need it? Is it an important one? Do you want to go fix it? What work can you do to do that? And lastly, you cannot know or prepare for every single situation or possible thing that may come up. You can't. It's impossible. But what you can do is use your general knowledge and customer interaction skills to create a beneficial advantage. So to review, the part where you feel your emotions, but yep, know your limits and being compassionate with yourself. Absolutely, Julia. Here's a review. So dealing with difficult conversation. Remember, you're going to hold them, fold the conversation, deflect, defer, get away from. And you're going to plan and prepare. You're going to plan for the expected, prepare for the unexpected. And remember, you have to notice your attribution of the other person's intentions. Remind yourself what you don't know. It's very important. Keep reminding yourself, what don't I know? Some quick infographic things. I love infographics, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. Your current situation, the current way you think doesn't have to be your last way you think. Keep getting better. Remember that often great things start from humble beginnings. And importantly, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are learning. Failure is learning. One size does not fit all. I can tell you afterwards the story of this particular thing. Jessica's heard it, but I can tell you the story of this particular thing in Denver. Everything scales. And lastly, there are no shortcuts to the road to success. Okay. And remember, At the bottom end, you can really cannot change another person. Okay. And I like that, Victoria. Some reflections taking time to think about what you were thinking and feeling in the situation and where those came from in your own experience and background. Absolutely. Part of knowing who you are is knowing where your reaction to things came from and be able to control as much as you can. I love this book, Handling Difficult People, by the way. This is 10 different types of difficult people to deal with, including the big bully, the big mouth, the brick wall, the contemplator, and the snooty snob, are a few of them. All right, it is 12 o'clock at the top of ye old hour, and the webinar is supposed to last an hour. If you need to leave, I want to thank you very much for being here. And there is a bookshelf. Yes, there is. So there's Emotional Intelligence. I didn't mention or quote the book, but it's a great book. Crucial Conversations. Almost everyone in every management thing in libraries has read it because good grief, you need to. Emotional Intelligence. You're Not Listening. Diffusing Angry People and Talking on Eggshells. Excellent book. Soft skills for the hard conversations. You are all welcome. Winning Body Language book, Body Language for Dummies. The Zen of the Art of Difficult People, Handling Difficult People and No Asshole Rule, and Working with Difficult People and Getting Along. And then more body language, difficult conversations. Dealing with difficult people in the library is old, but you can find a copy of it out there on things like thrift books. And with that, thank you all very much. I really want to appreciate you. And just this all is, look, it's not easy. It isn't easy. I want you to know that this stuff is not easy. If you do the work and approach it with grace and compassion, you will be better than any other type of interaction. And I apologize, it's only an hour. I couldn't go into depth with some things or explore some things, etc. I again, this is one of those. Yes, Julia, you will get a text list. You're going to get a handout with photos of ye old books. Will that work, or do you need a text list of the different books? Okay, yeah. Your handout's going to have the bookshelf in it. Don't worry. No. Now
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave you hanging like that. My goodness, that wouldn't be very kind of me now, would it? No.
Yeah, I'll follow up with an email. It'll have a copy of the recording and a copy of the slides with all of these books mentioned.
Yep.
And I popped a quick survey into the chat. If you have a chance to fill that out, your feedback would be really appreciated.
Yep.
And there's some really great crowdsourcing here today. So thanks for
That's
that.
the idea. It's the wisdom of the crowd, Jessica, and everyone else. I mean, again, 75 people, if you say everyone has 10 years of experience, every individual thing, that's 750 years of experience. I would hope in 750 years of experience, we have at least one answer. And we had a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be sure to share that with you,
Yeah.
Maurice, so that you can.
Jessica, will there be certificates of attendance for people?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So you all, so those of you who know, I'm in Maryland. So our libraries, you have to have 90 continuing education hours every 5 years. Something similar in New York, right? How many hours do you all have?
I'll have to defer to the crowd on that. 60 hours. Okay.
60 hours. Okay.
And there was a year cutoff so that people beforehand didn't have to do
Right.
that, but people after that do have to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, we're everybody. MLS librarians and those who go through our state library associate training institute. State mandated library associate training institute. Oh, pre-2010. Wow. Huh. Wow. Yeah, we don't care. Well, thank you all very much. We didn't lose a lot of people. We only lost 25 people. Wow. So if there are any questions afterwards, I can stay for a minute or two. If you have some more questions, if you want to dive into anything, that's all good. Yeah. I
Sure.
mean, again, I'm sorry this was only an hour.
I
Oh,
mean,
what's the photo?
I'll
That
end the
is,
recording, and then if anybody has
oh,
anything
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
Please
they
do it,
want to
Jessica.
share that they don't want on the recording, then people can.
About you kissing the crowd.